James Weston built his empire in silence, and from the heart of Atlanta's gleaming skyline, he rules. At 30, he is a billionaire who redefines power, discreet, calculated, untouchable. His name opens doors, but his silence opens speculation. Handsome yet withdrawn, James is a puzzle the city's elite can't solve, and the rumors have festered. Is James Weston hiding his real life? Is his success a facade for secrets he won't reveal? What they don't see is the boy forged in fear inside the cold walls of a Buckhead mansion, a boy who watched his mother, Esther, break under the cruelty of his father, Charles Weston. Love, for James, is a danger he cannot afford. James Weston sat alone in his office, the tall glass windows stretching from floor to ceiling behind him. Outside, the lights of Atlanta flickered in the night, but James wasn't looking at them. He sat very still, fingers steepled, eyes locked on the door in front of him. The knock came at exactly 8:47 p.m. "Come in," James said. The door opened, and Joseph Carter stepped inside. He looked a mess. His hair was wet from the rain, his jacket was wrinkled, and his eyes were red. He wasn't the smooth, confident man James remembered from college. Now, he looked like someone who had lost too many battles. Joseph closed the door behind him and walked in slowly. His shoes squeaked against the marble floor. James didn't move. He watched as Joseph dropped into the chair across from him, breathing hard like he had just run a marathon. "I'm in trouble," Joseph said. James said nothing. He just waited. Joseph rubbed his face with both hands. "It's bad, James. Worse than before." James stayed quiet. Silence made most men nervous. It made them tell the truth. "I borrowed money," Joseph continued. "A lot. From the wrong people. I thought I could fix it. I thought," he stopped, swallowed, and started again. "They want it back. Now. And if I don't pay?" He shook his head. "They said they'd come after my family. After Luna." At that, James's fingers twitched, the smallest reaction. He sat back in his chair, steepling his fingers again. "How much?" James asked quietly. Joseph's shoulders sagged. $100,000. Due in 6 days. The number didn't surprise James. He had heard worse. He leaned forward slightly. "I'll give you the money," James said. Joseph's head snapped up. Relief flooded his face, but James wasn't finished. "But I want something in return." Joseph blinked. "What?" James stood and walked to the window. He looked out at the city, at the light stretching for miles. His reflection in the glass was sharp, still, unreadable. "Luna," James said. Joseph frowned. "What about her?" "I want to marry her." For a second, the room went dead silent. Even the city noise outside seemed to fade. "My sister?" Joseph asked slowly, like he wasn't sure he had heard right. "Yes." Joseph stood up too. "James, be serious. You barely know her." James turned, his face calm. "I know enough." "But," Joseph shook his head. "Why her?" James didn't answer right away. He stepped closer until he was standing just in front of Joseph. "Because she's the only person who ever looked at me like I was human," James said. His voice was steady, low. "Not a businessman. Not a billionaire. Just a man." Joseph opened his mouth, then closed it again. He ran a hand through his damp hair. "Does Luna know about this?" he asked. "No." Joseph laughed once, sharp and bitter. "She's not a bargaining chip, James." James's jaw tightened. "I'm not bargaining. I'm offering." Joseph shook his head again. "Luna isn't like other girls. She's not chasing money." "I know," James said. "That's why I'm asking. Joseph paced the room, hands on his hips. He stopped and faced James again. "You'll take care of her?" he asked. James didn't hesitate. "Better than anyone else ever could." Joseph's face twisted. "She'll have to agree." James nodded. "She will. You'll talk to her tonight." Joseph stared at him for a long time. Finally, he sighed, long and heavy. "I'll talk to her," he said. James gave a small nod. "Good." Joseph didn't wait. He turned and left the office, the door clicking shut behind him. James stayed where he was, looking at the closed door, his hands in his pockets. He didn't smile. He didn't relax. He just stood there, waiting. Because he knew Luna. And he knew what she would choose. Not because she loved him. But because she would see what he was offering. Peace. Luna Carter was washing dishes when the knock came at her door. She frowned, glancing at the clock on the wall. 9:03 p.m. Too late for visitors. She wiped her hands on a towel and walked to the door, peeking through the small peephole. It was Joseph, her brother. He looked tired, wet from the rain, his jacket dripping water onto her welcome mat. She opened the door without a word. He stepped inside quickly, shivering from the cold. Luna closed the door behind him and turned to face him. "You look like you fought a storm and lost," she said, trying to smile. Joseph chuckled weakly. "Feels about right." She led him into the small living room. Her apartment was modest but cozy. Warm light filled the space, and books lined a simple shelf by the window. A soft beige couch sat across from a small TV, and the scent of vanilla candles drifted through the air. Joseph dropped onto the couch, running a hand through his damp hair. Luna sat in the chair across from him, studying his face. She had known Joseph all her life. She could tell when something was wrong. "What's going on, Joe?" she asked. He didn't answer right away. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, staring at the floor. "Do you remember James Weston?" he asked finally. Luna tilted her head. "Your old college friend? The billionaire?" Joseph nodded. Luna shrugged. "I remember meeting him once. He didn't talk much. He doesn't talk to anyone unless he has to," Joseph said. He rubbed his face. "But he's helped me before. And he's willing to help me again." Luna raised an eyebrow. "Help you how?" Joseph looked up at her, eyes bloodshot and tired. "I owe people money. Dangerous people. James said he'd pay my debt." Luna frowned. "That's good news, isn't it?" Joseph didn't answer. He swallowed hard, his throat working. "He asked for something in return," Joseph said slowly. Luna's stomach twisted. "What kind of something?" "He wants to marry you." The words dropped between them like stones. Luna stared at her brother, sure she had misheard. "Excuse me?" Joseph sat up straighter, his hands tightening into fists. "James wants to marry you. No big ceremony. Just a simple civil wedding." Luna blinked, trying to process his words. "You're serious?" Joseph nodded. "Why?" Joseph shook his head. He didn't say much. "Just that you made an impression on him." Luna sat back in her chair, crossing her arms. "Joe, I've spoken maybe 3 words to him. That was years ago." Joseph leaned forward, desperate now. "Luna, he's not a bad man. He's private, yeah, but he's not cruel. He's offering protection. Stability." Luna stared at her brother. "And what about love?" Joseph looked away. "You know better than." "Messed up, Lou," he said. "I borrowed money from people I shouldn't have. They want it back. If I don't pay, they're gonna come after me. After you." She stiffened but didn't panic. Luna was always the calm one. How much? She asked. $100,000, he said. She gave a small, sharp breath. That's a lot. I know. They sat in silence for a moment, the rain tapping against the windows. I found a way out, Joseph said finally. His voice cracked. But you're not going to like it. She waited, silent. I went to James Weston. Luna blinked. The James Weston? Your friend from college? Joseph nodded. I thought you said you didn't talk much anymore, she said. We don't, Joseph admitted. But he was my last shot. Luna tilted her head. And? Joseph rubbed his hands together. They were shaking. He agreed to give me the money, Joseph said. But he wants something in return. Luna's face didn't change. She just waited. He wants to marry you. For a second, Luna didn't move. Didn't blink. The words hung between them, heavy and unbelievable. What? She said quietly. He wants to marry you, Lou, Joseph repeated. No strings. No big wedding. Just, marry him. And he'll wipe my debt. Luna stared at him. Her face was calm, but her hands were clenched in her lap. Why? She asked. Joseph shook his head. He didn't say much. Just that you're the only person who ever looked at him like he was human. Luna laughed, a short, dry sound. That's not a reason to marry someone. I know. Joseph leaned forward. But Lou, you don't know the kind of people I'm in debt to. They don't make threats they don't keep. They'll hurt you to get to me. Luna looked away, staring at the rain-smeared window. He's a billionaire, Lou, Joseph said. You'll be safe with him. Protected. You won't have to worry about anything. She was quiet for a long time. Do you love him? She asked suddenly. Joseph blinked. What? Do you love him, Joe? She repeated, her voice steady. No, he said, confused. I mean, he's my friend, but... Then why should I marry him? She asked. Joseph swallowed. Because I'm your brother. And I'm asking you to save my life. Luna closed her eyes. She sat still, breathing slowly, evenly. Joseph's heart pounded in his chest. I'm not asking you to love him, he said. Just, think about it. Please. Luna stood up. She walked to the window, arms crossed. Outside, the rain blurred the city lights into soft glows. The world looked softer in the rain, but it didn't change what it was. I've met him before, Luna said quietly. Joseph looked up. You have? She nodded. At your birthday party 2 years ago. He sat in the corner, didn't talk much. But he watched everything. Joseph remembered. James had been there, silent, observant. He didn't say much to me, Luna continued. But when he did, he was kind. Joseph didn't know what to say. I'll do it, she said finally, turning to face him. Joseph blinked. You will? She nodded. You said he doesn't want a big wedding. No, Joseph said quickly. Just something small. A civil ceremony. Luna smiled, but it was a sad smile. Figures. Joseph stood up, relief flooding his body. He wanted to hug her, but something in her face stopped him. Thank you, Lou, he said softly. She just nodded. Go home, Joe, she said. Get some sleep. Joseph hesitated. I'll call him. Tell him you said yes. Okay. He left without another word, the door clicking shut behind him. Luna stood at the window for a long time after he was gone, watching the rain. Her hands were steady, her face calm. But inside, her heart was breaking. The next morning, Luna woke to the sound of her phone buzzing on the nightstand. She groaned and reached for it. Unknown number. She hesitated, then answered. Hello. Miss Carter, a smooth voice said. This is Noah Brooks. I'm Mr. Weston's assistant. He asked me to arrange a meeting. Luna sat up, brushing hair from her face. A meeting? Yes, ma'am. At the Belvoir Hotel. This afternoon. 3 p.m. Luna swallowed. The Belvoir was one of the most expensive hotels in Atlanta. I'll be there, she said. Very good, ma'am. The car will pick you up at 2:30. He hung up. Luna sat there for a moment, staring at the phone. Then she got up and went to shower. At 2:30 sharp, a sleek black car pulled up outside her building. The driver opened the door for her without a word. She slid into the back seat, her hands clutching her small purse tightly. The city blurred past the windows as they drove. Tall glass buildings, busy streets, people rushing through the rain. The Belvoir was even grander than she remembered. Tall, with shining gold accents and a red carpet leading to the entrance. The driver opened her door, and she stepped out, smoothing her simple black dress. Inside, the lobby was quiet, luxurious. A man in a black suit approached her. Miss Carter. Right this way. He led her to a private elevator and pressed a button. The doors opened on the top floor. A suite stretched out before her, all clean lines, soft gray furniture, and huge windows overlooking the city. James Weston stood by the window, his back to her. He turned when she stepped inside. He looked exactly the same. Tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in a black suit without a tie. His face was unreadable, sharp cheekbones, steady dark eyes, lips set in a straight line. Miss Carter, he said. Luna, she corrected softly. He gave a small nod. Thank you for coming. I didn't have much of a choice, she said. He didn't smile, but something in his eyes flickered. I wanted to see you before the ceremony, he said. To make sure you're sure. She lifted her chin. Are you? Yes, he said simply. Luna took a deep breath. Why me? He studied her for a long moment. Because you don't look at me like everyone else does, he said. You don't see a billionaire. You don't see a mystery. You see a man. Luna didn't know what to say. James stepped closer, but not too close. He kept a respectful distance. I won't ask for anything from you, he said. No interviews. No photos. No public shows. Just your presence. Luna nodded slowly. And what do I get? He was quiet for a moment. Safety, he said finally. And anything you need. Luna looked at him, at the quiet strength in his posture, the calm in his voice. It wasn't love. But it was something. Okay, she said. James nodded once. We'll get married on Saturday, he said. A small civil ceremony. No press. No guests except Joseph and a witness. Fine, she said. I'll have a car sent for you, he said. You won't have to do anything. Luna smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. I'm used to doing things myself. James's mouth twitched, not quite a smile, but something close. Not anymore, he said. Luna turned to leave, but stopped at the door. Why didn't you ever marry before, she asked. James paused. Because I never found someone I wasn't afraid of hurting, he said quietly. Luna stared at him, then nodded. She left without another word. James stood there for a long time after she was gone, staring out at the city. Outside, the rain kept falling. Saturday came faster than Luna expected. The morning air was heavy and gray, the clouds low over Atlanta like a blanket. Rain had stopped sometime before dawn, but the streets were still wet, shining under the muted light. Luna stood in front of her mirror, staring at her reflection. The woman who looked back at her didn't look like the Luna Carter she knew. Her hair was pulled into a soft, elegant bun at the nape of her neck. A few curls framed her face. Her dress was simple but beautiful, off-white silk that hugged her figure without being too loud. No lace, no beads, no long train. It was the kind of dress a woman wore when she didn't want attention, only quiet dignity. A knock sounded at her door. She turned, heart racing. Joseph stepped in, wearing a dark suit that didn't quite fit. His tie was crooked, his shoes scuffed. His face looked worn, older than his 32 years. "You look beautiful," he said, smiling weakly. "Thanks," Luna said. They stood there awkwardly for a moment. "Are you ready?" Joseph asked. Luna looked at herself one last time. She took a slow breath. Yes. The black car was waiting outside for them. The driver, dressed in a sharp black uniform, nodded as they got in. The city blurred past the windows. Luna stared out, watching people go about their Saturdays, shopping bags in hand, coffee cups, laughing couples. For a moment, she wondered what it would be like to have a normal day like that. A normal life. Joseph fidgeted next to her. "Lou," he started. "Don't," she said quietly. He closed his mouth. They drove in silence the rest of the way. The civil ceremony was being held at a private hall in a government building downtown. No decorations. No flowers. Just polished floors, neutral walls, and a single large window looking out over the city skyline. When Luna stepped inside, she saw James immediately. He stood at the front of the room, hands clasped in front of him, wearing a dark gray suit and a white shirt, no tie. Simple. Elegant. His face was unreadable, calm. There were only a few people there, Joseph, of course, and another man Luna didn't know, standing quietly in the corner. The officiant was a middle-aged woman with kind eyes and a small smile. No guests. No photographers. No noise. Luna walked forward slowly. Her heels clicked softly against the marble floor. James's eyes met hers. He gave a slight nod, not a smile, not warmth, but something close to acknowledgement. She stood beside him. Close enough to feel his presence, his steady calm. The officiant cleared her throat. "We are gathered here today for a simple but important ceremony," she began. Her voice was low, soothing. "James Weston and Luna Carter have chosen to join their lives in marriage." Luna listened, but the words washed over her. James stood very still beside her. Not tense. Not nervous. Just, still. Like he was used to waiting for storms to pass. "Do you, James Weston, take Luna Carter to be your lawfully wedded wife?" the officiant asked. James didn't hesitate. "I do." "And do you, Luna Carter, take James Weston to be your lawfully wedded husband?" Luna swallowed, then said, clear and steady, "I do." The officiant smiled. "Please exchange rings." James reached into his pocket and pulled out a simple band. Platinum, no stones, no fuss. He slid it onto her finger. His touch was careful, precise, as if he was afraid of pressing too hard. Luna slipped a matching band onto his finger. His hands were warm, steady. "I now pronounce you husband and wife," the officiant said. "You may," she hesitated for half a second, seeing the tension between them, "shake hands." James turned to Luna, his dark eyes holding hers. He didn't reach for her face, didn't pull her into a kiss. Instead, he held out his hand. Luna placed hers in his. His fingers wrapped around hers firmly but gently, like a promise. The officiant smiled wider and gave a small nod. The ceremony was over. Afterward, they signed the papers. Legal. Binding. Simple. Joseph lingered by the wall, looking nervous. James handed a slim envelope to Joseph. Luna didn't need to guess what was inside. Joseph took it, his hand trembling slightly. James leaned closer and spoke quietly, but Luna heard. From this moment, Joseph, she is my wife. My responsibility. Don't make me regret this. Joseph nodded quickly. I understand. He turned to Luna. I'm sorry, Joseph whispered. She said nothing. Just watched as he walked away, his shoulders hunched. James turned to her. Are you ready? He asked. Luna gave a small nod. He offered his arm. She took it. Together, they walked out of the hall, into the cool afternoon air. The black car was waiting. James opened the door for her. She slid in, the leather seat cool against her legs. James got in beside her. The door closed with a soft thud, shutting out the rest of the world. The drive to his penthouse was quiet. James didn't speak, and neither did Luna. She glanced at him once. He sat straight, calm, his hand resting loosely on his knee. His wedding band gleamed against his skin. She looked away. Outside, the city moved past them, cars, buildings, people living their lives. Luna wondered what her life would look like now. When they arrived, the car pulled into an underground garage. They took a private elevator to the top floor. The doors opened directly into the penthouse. Luna stepped inside and stopped. It was beautiful. Wide open space. Floor-to-ceiling windows with a view of the city stretching out below them. Soft gray and black furniture. Marble floors. Clean lines. No clutter. It felt more like a hotel than a home. James set his keys down on a table near the door. This is your home now, he said quietly. Luna turned to look at him. Where do I sleep? She asked. James blinked once. In the master bedroom. But if you prefer a separate room, I can have one prepared. Luna shook her head. The master is fine. He nodded. You'll find everything you need in the closet, he said. Clothes, shoes, anything you might want. If anything is missing, tell Noah. He'll handle it. Luna's throat tightened. James stood there, silent, waiting. I don't expect anything from you, he said finally. You're free to live as you wish. Luna studied him. No expectations, she asked. He shook his head. None. She nodded slowly. Thank you, she said. James inclined his head slightly. I'll give you time to settle in, he said. He walked down the hall, disappearing into a room at the far end. Luna stood alone in the vast, quiet space. She slipped off her shoes and crossed to the window. The city stretched out beneath her, busy, loud, alive. But up here, it was silent. She pressed her hand against the cool glass. Married. To a man she barely knew. A man who offered her no promises, no lies. Only safety. She wasn't sure if it was enough. But for now, it was all she had. And sometimes, that was more than enough. The first morning in James Weston's penthouse felt strange to Luna. She woke up in a huge bed, the sheets crisp and cool against her skin. The room was flooded with soft light pouring through the tall windows. She sat up slowly, looking around. Everything was quiet. The furniture was sleek and modern, shades of gray, black, and white. There were no personal touches. No photographs. No paintings with meaning. The space was beautiful but cold, like a showroom no one really lived in. Luna slid out of bed and padded barefoot across the marble floor. The air was cool against her legs. She found a long robe folded neatly on a chair and slipped it on. The door to the bedroom opened into a wide hallway. She followed it to the kitchen. James was there, standing by the counter. He wore a black t-shirt and dark jeans, barefoot, a coffee mug in his hand. He looked up when she entered, his face unreadable as always. "Good morning," he said. Luna nodded. "Morning." He set down the mug and reached for another. "Coffee? Please." She sat at the small table by the window. A second mug appeared in front of her. She wrapped her hands around it, grateful for the warmth. They sat in silence for a moment, the city spread out beyond the glass. "How did you sleep?" he asked finally. "Well enough," she said. He nodded, as if that was all he needed to know. "I have a meeting later," he said. "I'll be out most of the day. If you need anything, Noah can arrange it." Luna stirred her coffee slowly. "What am I supposed to do here all day?" James tilted his head slightly, considering her. "Whatever you want," he said. She looked at him. "This isn't exactly homey." He gave a small shrug. "You can change that if you like." Luna smiled faintly. "You'd let me?" "It's your home now, too," he said. They fell into silence again. Luna sipped her coffee, studying him over the rim of her cup. James Weston was a man of few words, but the words he spoke seemed to carry extra weight, as if he carefully measured every one before speaking. He stood up, setting his empty cup in the sink. "I should go," he said. She nodded. He picked up a sleek black jacket from a chair and slipped it on. Before he left, he paused at the door. "If you want to explore the building, use the private elevator. It's secure." And then he was gone. The penthouse felt even bigger without him there. Luna wandered through the rooms, taking her time. There was a library, walls lined with books she didn't recognize, mostly business and finance. There was a gym, a small office, and a second lounge area with a grand piano in one corner, covered with a black cloth. She stood there for a long time, staring at the piano. Her fingers itched to touch it, but she didn't. Instead, she explored the kitchen, finding it spotless and unused, and then the balcony, a long stretch of glass and steel overlooking Atlanta. The city buzzed far below, but up here, it was peaceful. Too peaceful. That afternoon, Noah Brooks arrived. He was polite, dressed in a neat dark suit, and carried a tablet tucked under his arm. "Mrs. Weston," he greeted her. "Just Luna, please." He nodded. "I've brought a list of activities and places you might enjoy, should you wish to get out of the penthouse," he said, offering her the tablet. She took it and scanned the list: museums, parks, shops, private clubs. "I'm not sure I need all this," she said. "Mr. Weston prefers to make sure his wife has every option available." His wife. The word still felt strange. Luna smiled politely. "Thank you." Noah hesitated before speaking again. "If you wish, the penthouse can also be personalized. Furniture, art, anything you'd like. Just tell me." She nodded slowly. "I'll think about it." He gave a small bow and left. Days passed like that. James left early each morning and returned late at night. Luna spent her days reading, organizing the kitchen, and learning the rhythm of the quiet penthouse. Sometimes she explored the city. She visited a small bookstore downtown, bought a few novels, and spent hours in coffee shops, watching people. Ordinary people. Laughing, arguing, living. At night, she would sit on the balcony, a blanket wrapped around her, sipping tea and staring at the lights of the city. James would come home, quiet and tired. They would exchange a few words, nothing more. It was not romance. But it wasn't prison, either. It was peaceful. One night, a week after their wedding, Luna couldn't sleep. She wandered into the second lounge, drawn again to the piano. This time, she lifted the cover. The piano was beautiful, black lacquered wood, ivory keys shining under the dim light. She sat on the bench and touched the keys gently. She hadn't played in years. Her fingers moved slowly, uncertainly, finding a simple melody she remembered from childhood. The soft notes filled the quiet room. She didn't hear James come in. When she finished, she turned and found him standing in the doorway, hands in his pockets. "I didn't know you played," he said. She smiled. "I'm rusty." He stepped closer, his steps soft against the floor. "My mother used to play," he said. His voice was low, almost thoughtful. "She tried to teach me once." Luna tilted her head. "What happened?" He looked at the piano, not at her. "My father didn't think music was useful." She pressed a key softly, the note hanging in the air. James's face was unreadable, but something shifted in his eyes. A memory, maybe. A pain. "I can teach you," Luna said suddenly. He looked at her, surprised. She shrugged. "If you want." He gave a small nod. "Maybe." They stood there for a moment, the silence between them no longer heavy, just there. James stepped back. "Good night, Luna," he said. "Good night, James." He turned and left. Luna stayed at the piano a little longer, fingers tracing the keys. Maybe peace wasn't such a bad beginning after all. It started with a headline. Luna was sitting at the small breakfast table, sipping her tea, when her phone buzzed. She ignored it at first, enjoying the quiet. The morning sunlight poured through the wide glass windows, painting the penthouse in gold. The phone buzzed again. With a sigh, she reached for it and glanced at the screen. Her breath caught. A message from an old classmate she hadn't spoken to in years. Just a link and a wide-eyed emoji. Curious, Luna clicked it. The article loaded slowly, and when it finally appeared, her stomach tightened. Who is Luna Carter? The mysterious bride of James Weston. Beneath the headline was a picture, grainy, clearly taken from far away. It showed her and James stepping out of the car after the wedding, arm in arm. The article was full of speculation. No one knew who she was. No one had seen them together before. No grand wedding, no guests, no social media posts. The article asked all the questions. Was it love? Or something else? Why the secrecy? And what about the long-standing rumors about James Weston? Luna's hand tightened around her mug. She had expected curiosity. But not this. The phone buzzed again. Another message. Then another. Old friends. Distant family. Even people she didn't remember. She set the phone down and took a deep breath. She was still staring at it when she heard the soft chime of the elevator. James. He walked in, his suit jacket over one arm, tie already loosened. His eyes immediately went to her. "What's wrong?" he asked, voice low but sharp. Luna hesitated, then pushed the phone across the table toward him. He picked it up and scanned the screen. His jaw tightened. He set the phone down carefully, almost too carefully. "I expected this," he said quietly. "They don't even know me," Luna said, her voice calm, but her hands were shaking slightly. "But they're already making up stories." James pulled out a chair and sat across from her. "They don't care about the truth," he said. "They care about the story." She stared at him. "Are you going to do anything?" James was quiet for a moment, thinking. "No," he said finally. "It will pass. It always does." Luna pressed her lips together. "But it won't pass, will it? They'll keep talking. They'll keep guessing." James met her eyes. "Does it matter?" "It does to me," she said. He leaned back, studying her. "I don't care what they think," he said. "They don't know you. They don't know me. But they think they do, she said. James's face hardened slightly. He was used to this, the gossip, the rumors. He had built walls so high nothing could touch him. Luna wasn't built that way. I'm not ashamed of you, he said softly. She blinked, surprised. I married you because I wanted to, he continued. Not because I needed to prove anything to anyone. Luna looked down at her hands. I know. He stood up, coming around the table. He crouched beside her, taking her hand gently. You don't have to fight this battle, he said. Not alone. She looked at him. For the first time, she saw a crack in his armor, a flicker of something vulnerable. Will you fight it with me? She asked. James didn't hesitate. Yes. But the world didn't stay quiet. A few days later, another article appeared, harsher this time. Is James Weston hiding his true self? They dug into his past, the lack of public relationships, the years of silence, the careful way he stayed away from cameras. They hinted, they suggested, but they never said it outright. They didn't have to. The comments were worse. He's hiding something. No woman would marry a man like that unless she had to. She's a cover. Luna stopped reading after a while. It wasn't worth it. But the damage was done. She could feel it when she went out, the way people looked at her in the coffee shop, the sideways glances at the bookstore. She started staying home more. James noticed. One evening, he found her curled up on the balcony, blanket wrapped around her, staring out at the city. He sat down in the chair beside her, a glass of whiskey in his hand. They sat in silence for a long time. Finally, he spoke. I can make it stop. She looked at him. How? I have ways, he said simply. She smiled, just a little. Of course you do. He set down the glass. But if we fight back, he said, it becomes a story. They'll twist it, use it. Luna pulled the blanket tighter around herself. I don't want to live my life hiding, she said. And I don't want to pretend either. James leaned forward, elbows on his knees. What do you want? He asked. She turned her head to look at him. I want to be seen, she said softly. Not as a lie. Not as a rumor. Just, seen. James nodded slowly. Then we'll show them, he said. She raised an eyebrow. Show them what? He smiled, a real one this time, small but genuine. The truth. The next morning, James did something he hadn't done in years. He posted a photo on his social media account, the one he rarely used. It was simple. No captions. No filters. Just a photo of Luna standing on the balcony, sunlight in her hair, looking out at the city. Within an hour, it had 1 million likes. Comments flooded in, some curious, some cruel, but many more kind. For the first time, the world saw her not as a rumor, but as real. James didn't stop there. He started showing up with her, small events, quiet dinners. No interviews, no big announcements. Just appearances. Quiet, steady, real. And slowly, the noise began to die down. People moved on, chasing the next story. But Luna never forgot those first cracks in their piece. Neither did James. They learned something important in those days. Silence could protect. But sometimes, truth could protect even better. For a few weeks, life settled into a calm routine. James went to work each morning, Luna found her own rhythm, small errands, books, walks through the quieter parts of Atlanta. The noise around them had faded. The world, as it always did, moved on. But peace, Luna was learning, could be fragile. It started with a text. She was in the living room, curled up on the couch with a novel, when her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She frowned and opened the message. We need to talk. It's about Joseph. No name. No explanation. Just that. Her heart kicked hard against her ribs. She hadn't heard from her brother in months. After the wedding, he had vanished, leaving behind only silence. She stared at the message for a long time. Then, without thinking, she deleted it. But the feeling didn't leave her. A small knot formed in her stomach, tight and cold. James came home late that night. Luna was sitting at the dining table, pretending to read, but her mind was somewhere else. He set down his briefcase, loosened his tie, and poured himself a drink from the bar cart. "You're quiet tonight," he said, his voice calm but curious. Luna closed the book. "I got a message today," she said. James raised an eyebrow. "From who?" She hesitated. "About Joseph." James's body stilled. He didn't speak right away. Just took a slow sip of his drink. "What did it say?" he asked. "That we need to talk," she said. "Nothing else." James set down his glass carefully. "Did you respond?" "No." He nodded once, as if approving. "Good." Luna frowned. "What if he's in trouble?" James looked at her, his eyes steady and sharp. "Joseph made his choices," he said. "You don't owe him anything." "He's still my brother," she said softly. James was silent for a moment. "Luna," he said finally, his voice low and firm, "you are not responsible for saving people who don't want to be saved." She looked down at her hands, twisting the edge of the book. "I know." James stepped closer, his hand resting lightly on the back of her chair. "I'll handle it," he said. Luna looked up at him. "How?" He didn't smile. Didn't explain. "Trust me," was all he said. The next day, Luna tried to push the message from her mind. She went for a walk, had coffee at her favorite spot, browsed the bookstore. But when she came home, there was another message. "If you don't answer, I'll come to you." This time, her hands shook as she deleted it. She didn't tell James. 2 days later, she found Joseph herself. Or rather, he found her. She was leaving a small shop near the park when she heard someone call her name. "Luna." She froze. Joseph stood across the street, waving, his jacket soaked from the rain, his hair longer, messier. He looked thinner, older, like life had worn him down even more. Luna hesitated, then crossed to him. "What are you doing here?" she asked. "I needed to see you," he said. She folded her arms. "You could have called. You weren't answering." There was a desperate edge to his voice, a tightness in his eyes that made her uneasy. "What do you want, Joe?" He shifted on his feet. "I'm in trouble again," he said. Luna closed her eyes for a moment, gathering herself. "What kind of trouble?" Joseph hesitated, then blurted it out. "Money. I owe more money. And they're serious this time. Real serious." Luna felt her stomach sink. "How much?" she asked quietly. 50,000, he said. "But if I don't pay soon, they'll find me. Hurt me. Maybe worse." Luna shook her head. "I can't help you," she said. Joseph's face twisted. "You're rich now, Lou. You're married to James Weston. He has more money than he knows what to do with." "That's not how this works," she said. "Please," Joseph begged, stepping closer. "Just talk to him. He listens to you. He'll listen." Luna took a step back. "I can't," she said. "And I won't." Joseph's face hardened. The desperation turned sharp, bitter. "You owe me," he hissed. Luna stiffened. "I don't owe you anything," she said, her voice calm but firm. Joseph's eyes flickered, anger, fear, shame, and then he turned and walked away, shoulders hunched against the rain. Luna stood there for a long time, heart pounding. That night, she sat on the balcony, wrapped in her blanket, staring out at the city. She didn't hear James come up behind her. "You saw him," he said quietly. She nodded. James sat down beside her, his shoulder brushing hers lightly. "He asked for money," she said. "I know." She turned to look at him. "How?" "I have people," James said simply. "They watch." Luna shivered, not from the cold. "I told him no," she said. James didn't reply. He just sat there, steady, solid. "He said I owe him," she whispered. "You don't," James said. She looked down at her hands. "He's my brother," she said. James reached out, taking her hand in his. "He was your brother," James said. "Now, he's a threat." Luna squeezed her eyes shut. "I know you want to believe he can change," James said softly. "But some people don't change. They just find new ways to break you." She let out a shaky breath. James tightened his hand around hers. "I won't let him hurt you," he said. Luna opened her eyes and looked at him. In the darkness, his face was serious, sure. "I believe you," she said. He lifted her hand to his lips and pecked it, a small, quiet promise. They sat there, together, as the city lights shimmered below them. And for the first time, Luna let herself believe that maybe, just maybe, she was safe. Luna knew something was wrong before she even opened her eyes. It was the heaviness in the air, the way the morning sunlight felt dull, the way the penthouse seemed too quiet, too still. She rolled over and checked her phone. No new messages. No missed calls. She pushed the covers back and got up, pulling on a soft robe as she padded barefoot into the kitchen. James was already there, dressed, a cup of coffee in his hand. He wasn't looking out the window like usual. He was staring down at his phone, jaw tight, eyes unreadable. Luna frowned. "Bad news?" she asked gently. James looked up, his face calm but cold. "There's a problem," he said simply. Luna's heart tightened. She sat at the table. "What kind of problem?" He set his phone down carefully. "Joseph," he said. Of course it was. What did he do? James hesitated, a rare thing for him. "He's been talking to someone," he said. "A reporter. Someone looking for a story." Luna froze. "He's trying to sell them information," James continued. "About us. About the marriage." Luna pressed her hand to her mouth. "Is it true?" she whispered. "Can he really hurt us?" James leaned forward, elbows on the table. "Joseph knows just enough to twist the truth," he said. "And the right lie, mixed with just a little fact, that's dangerous." Luna's stomach churned. "What do we do?" she asked. James's eyes darkened slightly. "We make sure the story never gets written," he said. Later that day, James's assistant, Noah, arrived with a folder. He laid it on the table between them. "These are the payments Joseph's taken over the past year," Noah explained. "Small amounts, from different shady businesses. Gambling debts, loan sharks. He's in deep." James flipped through the pages, silent. "He's desperate," Noah said. "That makes him reckless." James closed the folder. "Find out who he's talking to," he said. "And stop them." Noah nodded and left. Luna sat very still. "James," she said slowly. "What are you going to do to him?" James looked at her, his face unreadable. "I'll protect us," he said. "That's not an answer." He was quiet for a moment. "Joseph made his choices," James said finally. "Now he has to live with them." Luna's throat tightened. She thought of her brother, the boy who used to sneak cookies with her from the kitchen, the teenager who tried to teach her how to ride a bike. Now just a ghost of those memories. I don't want anything bad to happen to him, she said softly. James's expression didn't change. I know. It didn't take long. That evening, Noah returned with news. He's meeting the reporter tonight, Noah said. At a bar downtown. 9 p.m. James stood. Get the car ready, he said. Noah nodded and left. James turned to Luna. Stay here, he said. Luna stood too. No. James frowned. Luna. I'm coming, she said firm. Lie. I need to see it for myself. James hesitated, then nodded once. Fine. The drive downtown was tense and silent. James sat still beside her, his face carved from stone. Luna stared out the window, heart pounding. They arrived a few minutes before 9. The bar was loud and crowded, lights glowing in neon colors. James didn't go inside. He stood across the street, in the shadows, watching. Luna stood beside him. It wasn't long before Joseph arrived. He looked worse than before, thinner, his clothes wrinkled and cheap, his eyes darting around like a man being chased by ghosts. He slipped inside the bar. A few minutes later, a woman followed him. Mid-30s, sharp eyes, a small recorder tucked into her purse. The reporter. James didn't move. They'll talk for a while, he said quietly. She'll ask questions. He'll lie. Luna wrapped her arms around herself. What are we going to do? She asked. James's voice was calm. We'll make sure no one believes him. They waited. An hour passed. Finally, Joseph stumbled out of the bar, alone. The reporter was nowhere in sight. Joseph fumbled for his phone, dialing a number. James's phone buzzed quietly. He answered. Tell him, James said calmly. Noah's voice crackled through the speaker. We made it clear to her, Noah said. Joseph Lawson isn't a source. He's a liability. She won't be running the story. James nodded and hung up. Luna stared at him. That's it? She asked. That's it, he said. Across the street, Joseph dropped onto a bench, head in his hands. Luna felt a wave of sadness wash over her. He's lost everything, she whispered. James looked at her, his face softer now. He lost himself a long time ago, he said. They stood there for a moment longer, watching. Then James turned to her. Come on, he said gently. Let's go home. In the car, Luna leaned her head against the window. James watched her for a long moment, then spoke. Are you angry? She shook her head slowly. No, she said. Just sad. He reached for her hand, threading his fingers through hers. I told you I would protect you, he said. She squeezed his hand gently. I know, she whispered. And she believed him. But as the city lights blurred past them, Luna realized something else. Sometimes, protection came with a price. And sometimes, love meant letting go of what hurt, even if it once meant everything. The city lights blurred past the windows as the car sped through the night. Luna sat still, her head resting against the cool glass, James's hand wrapped around hers. Neither of them spoke. The weight of what had happened, of what could have happened, sat heavy between them. When they got home, James unlocked the penthouse door and stepped aside, letting her walk in first. The silence inside was thick. Luna moved to the window, staring out at the city below. She could see the reflection of James behind her, still, watchful. She didn't know how long they stood like that, two shadows, quiet and unmoving. Finally, she spoke. Do you think he'll come back? She asked. James crossed the room slowly and stood beside her. No, he said. He won't. She turned to him. Because he's scared. James met her eyes. Because he knows it's over. Luna swallowed the lump rising in her throat. I thought, she trailed off. James waited, patient. I thought it would feel like closure, she said. But it doesn't. It just feels empty. James looked at her, and for the first time that night, his hand reached up, slow, careful, and tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear. I'm sorry, he said softly. Luna closed her eyes. James Weston, the man the world called cold, distant, untouchable, was standing in front of her, offering something no one else ever had. Honesty. Gentleness. Real care. Without thinking, she stepped closer, resting her forehead lightly against his chest. James didn't move at first. Then, slowly, his arms came up around her, pulling her in. It wasn't a passionate embrace. It wasn't rushed or desperate. It was steady. Safe. Luna let out a long breath she didn't realize she was holding. They stood there for a long time, no words, no promises, just shared silence. Finally, James spoke, his voice low. You don't have to carry this alone. Luna closed her eyes tighter. Maybe I don't know how not to, she whispered. James pressed a soft kiss to the top of her head. Then I'll teach you, he said. Over the next few days, life slowly found a new rhythm. James still went to work early, but now he called her during the day, short, simple check-ins. Luna started rearranging parts of the penthouse, adding small touches. A soft throw blanket on the couch. Fresh flowers on the kitchen island. Framed photographs, not of them, but of landscapes she loved. James didn't say anything about the changes. But he noticed. One evening, she found him standing in the middle of the living room, staring at a new painting she had hung, a simple piece, blues and grays swirling together, calm and deep. I like it, he said quietly. She smiled. Their nights changed, too. Sometimes they sat on the balcony together, no words needed, just the comfort of being near each other. Other nights, they shared late dinners in the kitchen, James rolling up his sleeves to help her wash dishes, his rare, quiet laughter filling the room when she splashed water at him. It wasn't a perfect life. But it was a real one. And for Luna, it was more than enough. One night, weeks after the confrontation with Joseph, Luna found herself awake long after midnight. She slipped out of bed and padded down the hall to the second lounge. The piano sat there, silent and waiting. She lifted the cover and sat down, her fingers finding the keys almost without thinking. A simple melody, soft, slow, full of memory. She didn't hear James come in, but she felt him. He stood in the doorway for a long moment before walking over and sitting beside her on the bench. He didn't speak. He didn't have to. Their shoulders brushed, warm and steady. Luna kept playing, the music filling the quiet room. When she finally stopped, she turned to him. James was watching her, not with the guarded distance he usually kept, but with something else. Something open. Something real. Teach me, he said, voice low. She smiled. Okay. She placed his hands on the keys, guiding his fingers. He was stiff at first, awkward. But he listened. He always listened. They sat like that for hours, slow, patient, learning. At some point, James's hand slipped from the keys and found hers, fingers twining together naturally, easily. Luna looked up at him. He leaned in, slow, careful, giving her time to pull away. She didn't. Searching. It wasn't wild. It was steady. Sure. James pulled back slightly, his forehead resting against hers. No words. Just breath shared in the quiet space between them. Luna closed her eyes. For the first time in a long time, she wasn't afraid. The next morning, when the city woke under a gray sky, James brought her coffee without asking how she liked it, because he already knew. She sat at the table, watching him. He caught her staring and raised an eyebrow. "What?" he asked, the ghost of a smile on his lips. Luna shook her head, smiling back. "Nothing," she said. But it wasn't nothing. It was everything. It was the beginning of something new. Something better. The first sign was small. Luna sat at the kitchen table one morning, stirring her tea, but her stomach turned at the smell. She pushed the cup away and sat back, frowning. James glanced up from his tablet. "You okay?" She nodded quickly, brushing it off. "Just not hungry." He studied her for a second longer but didn't press. The second sign was harder to ignore. Later that afternoon, she was walking back from the bookstore when a wave of dizziness hit her. She had to stop, resting her hand against a lamp post, breathing slowly until it passed. She told herself it was nothing. Maybe stress. Maybe the Atlanta heat. But deep down, a small thought had started whispering. The next morning, Luna stood in front of the bathroom mirror, staring at the little stick in her hand. The second line was faint, but it was there. She blinked at it, almost expecting it to disappear. But it didn't. Pregnant. She sat down slowly on the edge of the bathtub, the weight of the news crashing into her. Pregnant. With James's child. She pressed her hand lightly against her stomach, as if she could already feel something there. A part of her was scared. She had never imagined this, not yet, maybe not ever. But another part, deeper, quieter, was calm. This wasn't chaos. It was life. It was possibility. That evening, she didn't tell him right away. They sat on the balcony as the sun sank behind the skyline, warm cups of tea in hand. James was quiet, his usual calm presence beside her. Luna glanced at him, heart pounding. "I have something to tell you," she said finally. He turned his head, his expression open, waiting. She hesitated, suddenly unsure how to say it. So she just said it. "I'm pregnant." For a moment, there was only silence. James didn't move. He just stared at her, his dark eyes steady and unreadable. Luna held her breath. Then, slowly, he set down his cup. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, rubbing his hands together once. "How long have you known?" he asked. "This morning," she said softly. He looked at her again, really looked. And then something changed in his face. Not fear. Not anger. Just quiet wonder. "You're sure?" he asked. She nodded. James sat back, exhaling slowly. Luna watched him carefully. "I didn't plan this," she said quickly. "I wasn't trying to." James held up a hand, stopping her. "I know," he said. Another long silence. Then he leaned forward again, this time reaching out, placing a hand lightly on her stomach. The touch was gentle, almost cautious. His thumb moved in a slow, small circle. Luna's breath caught in her throat. James looked up at her, and for the first time since she had known him, she saw him truly unguarded. Soft. Real. "You're not alone in this," he said quietly. Luna blinked, her eyes stinging. "I know." His hand stayed on her stomach, warm and steady. Luna placed her hand over his. And just like that, something shifted between them. Not just protection anymore. Not just safety. This was family. The next few weeks passed in a blur of small changes. James became even more protective, gentle in ways he never had been before. Always checking if she was tired, if she had eaten, if she needed anything. He started coming home earlier. Sometimes she would catch him watching her across the room, his eyes softer now, less guarded. One night, as they lay in bed, Luna turned to him. "Are you scared?" she whispered. James was quiet for a moment. "Yes," he said finally. "Me too," she said. He smiled, a real smile, small and rare. "We'll figure it out," he said. She nodded. And she believed him. One morning, a few months later, James stood in the middle of a small, bright room that had once been empty. Now, it was filled with soft colors, pale greens and whites, a crib by the window, a rocking chair in the corner. Luna stood beside him, holding a small stuffed elephant she had picked out. James reached out and touched the crib lightly, almost reverently. "It's real now," he said. Luna smiled. "It's always been real." He turned to her, his face full of something deep and unspoken. "You're going to be an amazing mother," he said softly. She felt her throat tighten. "And you'll be a great father," she said. His eyes darkened for a moment, a shadow of old fears crossing his face. "I don't know how," he admitted. "You'll learn," she said simply. "We'll learn together." James nodded slowly. He reached for her hand, pulling her closer. They stood there, in the middle of the nursery, the weight of their pasts and futures pressing around them. And yet, in that moment, all Luna felt was peace. Real peace. Not the kind that hid pain. The kind that healed it. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe for more. Thank you.